Hello, everybody, and welcome to the pilot episode of the coolest podcast you guys will ever listen to, the Stone Disclosure. I'm joined here by my brother and sister. Guys, please introduce yourselves.
Hi, my name is Trista.
Hello, my name is Jamal.
All right, now for our first episode, we're going to talk about something that's very, very prevalent right now and actually holds a lot of weight in the climate of the pandemic of COVID 19. We're going to be touching on mental health and kind of discussing not only experiences with mental health, but just kind of going through some of the stigmas and misconceptions around it and trying to, I guess, give our take on it and see if we can help anybody else out with that. For personal experience, have either of you guys dealt or like experienced mental health in any way?
I mean, as a student, I obviously get stressed out a lot. And with that stress, it could also lead you, I don't want to say into a depressing stage, but it kind of is a depressing stage.
For me, I personally haven't experienced anything too serious like other people, but I think everybody has been through things like stress and stuff stuff of that nature. Having a lot of homework or having a lot of stuff on your plate like expectations that could really like wear down a person.
No, 100%. So, what to you guys? What is mental health, and like where does it actually come from? Like, what is your take on what that would be? Because I look at it in the sense of like, people who have any type of issues mentally where they're not really functioning in a way that normal people or people would perceive to be normal. But I also don't think that it's a bad thing. I don't think that, there's anything wrong with someone with mental health. It's just an inability to kind of balance the stresses that hit you on an everyday basis. And it comes from everywhere. It comes from like your personal experiences, it comes from your family background. That's my take on it. Like, what do you guys think about that?
No, I totally agree.
Yeah, no, I agree with that like 100%. Like I don't think there's such thing as just normal, but I think that there's just a certain degree that like people should be functioning at mentally, and then it's just when you're worn down by the things in your environment, it could cause a certain stress that just takes a toll on you mentally.
No, I completely agree with that. Well, what I look at too is there's a lot of like stigmas and misconceptions when it comes to mental health. Some that I've seen personally and I've actually heard other people say is that like anyone who's going through like some mental issue is like a sick person, or they're ill, or something was wrong with them from birth, or they went through some accident, or they're viewed like kind of a lesser than human being, and really like anybody can suffer through it. And I think most people do suffer through it and they don't really know because they're not really educated too much on the topic. Do you guys like have any like or heard any stigmas or misconceptions about it?
Well, yeah, like for me, like when you look at the media and what you see in the news, you see a lot of what they portray as like the mentally ill people, people that are mentally ill, like have like a bunch of violent problems with them, and they're always associated with violence. But just because you have like a problem with you mentally, it doesn't mean that you necessarily are a violent person. But they're always portrayed as that in like media, TV shows, and the news.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And then not just that, but then also on social media, you have those people tweeting or commenting saying that they have anxiety and that they're depressed, but they're not actually depressed. Maybe they're just sad, or maybe they're just having a tough time dealing with something, which we all go through.
But for me, I feel like a lot more people are going through some type of mental issue than we actually know. Just because I think it said that like 1 in 4 people have a mental illness or like are not proper mentally. And just for me, that just sounds very sad. Just because like you don't know what a person's actually going through.
Oh, I completely agree with that. I think too, kind of people go through mental illness in almost like different degrees, right? There are those people who go through it in a very severe sense, who suffer from like paranoid schizophrenia or like a very intense form of like bipolarism. And then there are just people who are just really antisocial, and it's because of anxiety. Like they're afraid of commingling with people, you know, or they're overly stressed, and that leads you to kind of like look at things a different way and deal with life a different way. Like the perfect example I always like to give is Kanye West. Everyone thinks Kanye is absolutely insane when in all honesty, like he's gone through numerous traumatic experiences that he just hasn't been able to deal with. So it doesn't make him mentally ill. It's just he's dealing with all the stress and all the hurt and everything, and he's in depression, you know. So it's little things like that. So what are some of like the factors that can like cause the result of like poor mental health?
Well, for me, I think first is a high stress level. So this could be anywhere from a lot of schoolwork, a lot of work at your job, expectations that you have to live up to that you just fail to hit, and then you just think that you're just a lesser person, and then this leads to anxiety, stress. There's a ton of things that lead to it. And yeah, this is what we just have to, look at and talk about and, just tackle together.
No, I totally agree with that, especially if you have someone you could talk to. I would still recommend you to talk to them, whether it's a family member, sorry, a friend or anyone else, because if you just let your feelings and your emotions bottle up, it's not going to get you anywhere. And that's coming from my personal experience.
Now, what I noticed too is like a lot of the things that would say cause like my generation stress would be like completely different with you guys, because when I was growing up, like we didn't get like Facebook till like I was graduated. Like I was already done high school, and then Facebook came out the following year. So you really didn't have heavy social media then. Yeah, you had like your Black Planet from before, but not everybody used that, and little ones here and there. But it was never saturated to the degree that your generation is kind of going through. And I think that adds a whole nother level of stress and anxiety to you guys, right? I can't really experience it the same way because by the time it really came out and it became a thing, I was already like an adult. I didn't really have to saturate or interject myself with it too much, right? I am becoming a little bit worse now, but you know, it is what it is. It changes over time. But you guys grew up in that era, so like, how was that for you personally? How much stress did that add to your life?
For me, I feel like it was more of an expectation because you see all these beautiful women on social media being all happy and, looking a certain way that now everyone else wants to be like. And, like as I said, setting those expectations. And now it's like you want to be like that, but you can't be like that because it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of adding that type of anxiety. I don't really want to say stress, but definitely anxiety.
Mm-hmm. So it adds like a kind of like a social pressure in a
Yeah,
way.
because then like you see everyone doing it, kind of like a trend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And yeah, your generation's very in it. Jay, you're kind of more of that bridging generation that kind of leads into it, right? How did that really like? Did it affect you at all? Or I know you're not a huge like social media guy, but like
personally for me, it didn't really affect me. All the social medias that I personally like to use, and it's not even a social media, but YouTube. Like I'll just watch a bunch of YouTube all day, and for me, that was a site that inspired me and taught me like, okay, if you want to get here, this is how to get it. But when you look at other social medias like Instagram and stuff, it's just people just flashing the best parts of their life, and they don't break down how or what they have. They just show what's in front of you. And for that might wear down on a person and think I want to be like them. But that to me just adds a bunch of negative energy. That's why I try to limit my time on social media.
smart man.
Yeah, it's kind of like wearing a mask in a sense because on social media you only have to show what you want to show. You're not showing the full side, like behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
what goes on in your life, what's true, raw pieces of your life.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fact. I believe like people in general kind of wear that mask, like even when you like speak to them, unless you really know the person, you don't really get to see that negative side of them, because like you always want to put your best foot forward. No one's gonna come out and tell people, oh yeah, I'm going through this and this is wrong in my life, right? But like it's worse, I think, with social media, because like if you do it in person, you have to be there in front of that person. You can actually pull yourself away, right? You can limit how much interaction you have with the person. But you go on Instagram and everybody's life is amazing, but then you know them in real life and you know that it really isn't, and it's almost like you're expected to have that. Like I don't know about you guys, when I see all these people who are like, "Oh, I'm on a trip," and I'm like, "This is your third trip in the last 3 months. Like, what the hell do you do?" And now I get like a little stressed out because I'm like, I kind of want to do that, but I know financially I can't, or time wise I can't. I have too many responsibilities. So I know that stresses me out, not to a whole degree, but it kind of makes me look at myself and be like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, and that's why like I personally dislike Instagram to a certain extent, and that's why I like YouTube a little more. Because with a site like YouTube, they will still go on those same vacations, but they'll break down, okay, I got these travel points from so and so card, I saved up this. Like they'll actually break it down. With sites like Instagram, they'll just literally just post themselves just on the vacation. And then you're thinking, okay, they must be like some multi-million-dollar person, and I'm not that person, so I failed to live up to the expectation that they're at. So that's why I really try to limit myself on sites like Instagram, because they really just they preach so much bad energy. That's why I don't like that.
So is it social media itself that's the issue, or is it us and how we utilize it? Because it sounds like you more use it as a tool to better yourself, whereas like other people kind of use it for like distraction.
Well, yeah, like honestly, when it comes to social media to me is, in an analogy, it's like fire. You could use fire to cook and be warm and all this good stuff, but it could also burn you. Social media is the same thing. At its core, it's just a platform, and it's what you use it for. And some people will use certain social medias as a tool to better themselves and educate themselves on certain matters, like this, for instance, educating yourself on mental health. But then certain people will also just go on it and look at other people's expectations for three or what other people are doing for 3 or 4 hours, and that'll just wear them down and just think that they're just a failure in society.
Yeah, as Jamal said, it really just depends on the person. Because if you're just on there to, like talk to your friends, like for me, I use Instagram to text my friends and to post sometimes on my accounts. But other than that, I don't look at other people's accounts and, dwell on me wanting to be like them all the time.
No, that's true. That's actually a really good way to look at it. Like, I don't know, for me, and this is just my opinion, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because especially in the climate now with COVID, and you can't really go anywhere or do anything. At least in Canada, Ontario, we can't do anything. It seems like I've been grounded for like a year. That's like your only, unless you're working, like you're able to work frontline, or like they open things up for a little bit and you can go here and do little things. Like, that's your entertainment while you're home. That's almost like your disconnect from your everyday. But then it's funny because like you're looking, I like to look at like videos and stuff like that like make me laugh. Right, so you're taking those in and you're like, oh yeah, this is great, this is providing me some sort of relief, this is helping my mental health in a way. But then the next post is going to be something that kind of makes you feel like you don't know what you're doing, or everyone's living this amazing life and you're not. So I think it's one of those things where you almost have to filter it in a way. You know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying, but then it's also like, shouldn't that give you more motivation to do what you want to do? Because, for example, if I'm just going through Instagram and I see someone working out and I'm over here eating a bag of chips, I am not motivated to go work out because I see someone else doing it. So I feel like it just depends on who you are as a person and how you take different things into consideration.
So it's based on an individual basis, is what you're coming with on this one.
Yeah, and what you want to, achieve in your life, because as I said, that should be motivation to you.
No, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that. It's kind of, and this is just how it's sounding to me, like the people who take this in and utilize it and read it the right way are the ones who are kind of going to come out on top with this and utilize it in a positive way. And then the people who kind of have their mental health affected by it, are they going in with just the wrong type of mindset, or maybe using this for the wrong reasons?
Well, for me, if you already have a mental health issue, like let's say depression or anxiety, and you go on social media and you see people who are living their best lives, that'll add fuel to the fire.
100%.
Yeah. But if you're just, there's nothing wrong with you mentally, and you're just going on social media, it could inspire you to do better. But it really just one it's really a case of who and how they're using it.
Yeah, I think people need to look at social media more of like a storybook as opposed to like a textbook, because these people on there, yeah, they're presenting this positive in their life, but you don't see the negative. You have to take into consideration that, yeah, as much as all this looks great, you don't see them every day. Right? You're basing their entire life based on that one photo that they put up there where they're on a beach, but we don't know how long they had to save up to get that trip. We don't know if, there's some girl with like a sugar daddy and he's the one paying for the trip. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know those contexts. So I think a lot of people kind of look at it and say, oh, this person must be successful, but it's not necessarily the case, right? It's just, it's their way of making that assumption to try to make themselves feel better. You almost look at it like, oh, that person is just better than me. That person is just more successful than I am. They have more drive than I am. They have something that I don't have, and that's why their life is better. So it kind of makes you, as that person, feel worse about yourself, but then better at the same time, because you can say, oh, well, they were just better, right? It's like if you saw the Lakers play, who's like the worst team right now?
Who's the worst?
There's a couple of them.
The Raptors are bad right now.
Okay, let's not hate on Toronto, okay? That's disrespectful. That's just rude. Let's say the Cavaliers post Kyrie and LeBron, right? If the Cavaliers lose, they could just look and, well, we lost to LeBron James. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. It's not, oh, we couldn't play better. It's not, oh, we could have done better. We could have tried harder. It's just, oh, well, we lost to the better guy. So you kind of rationalize that in your head. And it's funny how that manifests, because I think back to, I don't know if you guys watch mixed martial arts, but John Jones, who was one of the best fighters on the planet, before his fights, he would go out like that entire week and party and get drunk and get high, so that if he lost, he could rationalize in his head that he lost because of the partying and because of the bad behavior, as opposed to his opponent being better than him. And it's funny because it kind of all ties in, and you see that on a professional level with an athlete who's like completely under stress, where like you losing affects your career in a huge way, versus like the everyday person, and they're going through the same stuff. So it kind of just shows that like mental health is like universal in a way. I don't know if you guys see it the same way.
No, I totally agree.
Now this is gonna get a little bit heavy, only because the subject matter is just gonna get a little bit grim. One of the biggest kind of results of going through mental illnesses, and one of the biggest tells you can get for it, is self-harm. And a lot of people do this in different ways. You see it manifested in a physical sense, and you also see it manifested in a mental and emotional sense. Now, do you guys have any experiences or witnessed any experiences with this at all?
Personally, I have not. But what about you, Trista?
I don't want to like say any names or anything, but I have witnessed it. I haven't done it. Maybe thought about it, but I haven't done it. I have a few friends that have, harmed themselves physically, and the best advice that I could give is just to be there for them, to talk to somebody or reach out to somebody, whether it's a helpline or what have you. But there are definitely ways that you could help someone with whatever they're dealing with.
This is where my my age comes into play, because now I could actually reference some of these experiences. I've gone through it myself personally. Never actually physically gone the routes, but like you, I've thought about it. You know what I mean? I chickened out last minute. Thank God. It's funny because you see it in so many different ways, and everybody just assumes self-harm is going to be physical. When you think of somebody who's self-harming, you think of the cutters, you think of the people who attempted suicide, the people who tried to hang themselves, the people that like bash their heads into walls. But it takes on a mental state and a very emotional state as well. And I don't think a lot of people see it. Now, One example that I know I can give, because I've seen it happen so many times, is like somebody goes through a breakup and then they start dating people who they know aren't good for them. You know what I mean? Like the polar opposite of the person they dated. They wind up dating people who are verbally and physically abusive. They wind up going and trying to forge relationships with people who are not available. You know what I mean? So you kind of like set yourself up for failure in a way. I've seen it to the point where people started sabotaging their grades. They started sabotaging themselves at work. You know, they destroyed things around them. Though it wasn't like them physically hurting themselves, but they were physically destroying their lives because they start to feel like, oh, well, you know, that's how I'm supposed to be. And I don't think a lot of people realize that comes from mental illness. Like, if you've ever dealt with anybody who's gone through severe anxiety or depression, they don't necessarily have a very positive outlook on themselves, right? I could speak to it myself because, you know, I dealt with it when I was younger and somewhat pretty recently as well. You don't feel like a normal person. You know what I mean? You don't feel motivated to do anything. You don't feel happy to do anything. You're just kind of like going through the motions of life, and you don't notice anything. Like for me, it would be like I'd get up, I'd go to work, I'd come home, and then that whole like 18 hours of my day just didn't exist. You know, it's what I did after that existed. You don't remember certain things. You don't look at people the same way. Like, I didn't trust anybody. You know, I still kind of like am on the fence with people, you know, but like at that point, you didn't trust anybody. You didn't like anybody. The second anybody gave you any type of negativity around their personality, you were just like, no, I'm done with this, right? Because you're so disattached. I don't know if do you know anybody who's like that, or have you ever experienced that yourself?
I've experienced it with, like I said, like a friend, and it's kind of hard because then that reflects onto you because you're around them so much, right? So you kind of feel like you're lost in the sauce now, and that you don't know what to do or like what motivates you anymore. You kind of don't want to do anything.
On a very like personal level, you know,
Yeah.
sorry to sound redundant, but you know their history, you know how smart they are, you know how, you know, talented they could be, you know, you see their potential. Kind of confuses you because you're like, how do you not see that in yourself? Like, I see it all the time, and you can show them all the facts of the issue. You can be like, look, you got like, you know, 4 A's, right? You got 2 promotions in the last 5 years. Nobody's done that. You're able to do this, you're able to do that, but they don't see it. All the positives you kind of turn a blind eye to, and you just focus on the negatives. Now, I know you guys have never gone through it, but like, try to put yourself in that person's shoes. And what kind of things do you think you'd be able to like do to try to pull yourself out of that?
I think that's the hard part because you never really know what someone's going through unless you went through it yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So trying to help someone that you don't really know how to help them is the hardest part.
That's true.
So I have a question though. Is this like self care? Is that what you're talking about?
In a way, right? Self care to me kind of only goes so far. I always think self care is more of a prevention than an actual cure. Um, because like you look at certain things like self care, right? And you can go get massages, you can go do things you like. Is that gonna pull you out of depression? No. Like for me personally, I had things that I knew would kind of like curb my anxiety and curb my stress. I just didn't want to do them. You know what I mean? Like working out for me was huge. Growing up, like I did martial arts, and that's really what helped me get over a lot of my anxiety issues because I kind of dealt with it before it really manifested itself. But once it manifests, like you don't even want to do that. Like getting out of bed is hard for you. You know, that's kind of like the way we kind of have to like look at it in a sense. What I'm more kind of trying to touch on is a lot of these come from past experience or past trauma. That's where depression really kind of starts to take weight because we've all gone through stuff in our lives, right? We've all had moments that were traumatic. We've all had experiences that we don't forget because they stay in your mind, right? They're all usually negative experiences. And when they go unresolved and they just kind of sit there, they start to manifest in itself. And then the more you get hit by it, or you get hit by other things in your life, it gets even harder. So imagine now you have a backpack, right? And you can hold 100 pounds in this backpack. I don't know how the hell you're going to carry it, but you can hold 100 pounds in this backpack. And all the past history, all the trauma, all the dramatic events that happen in your life that stick already take up 30%. And until you resolve them, that 30% is constantly going to be in that backpack, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now you got school, and that's going to add another 30. And now you're in a relationship, and it's not going well, and that adds another 20. My math sucks, so we're at 80%. And then you got like the rest of the stuff you got to deal with in your life. That's like another 20, right? Now that backpack's full, right? And all those other things you can deal with, right? If you end that relationship, then that 30% is gone. If you finish school and you do good, that 30% is gone. But that unresolved 30 just sits there, and it's always going to take up the space. So normally, if you didn't have that 30% from all the traumatic experiences and the trauma and everything like that, I think it actually, no, all the trauma and everything like that, you would have that available 30% to kind of buffer the 70 that you piled on through life. So how do you guys think somebody who has that 30% would be able to deal with it?
Me personally, as I said, like I had a friend that went through this. I made them make a list of things that they like to do, whether it's hobbies, little things like hanging out with your family or friends or shopping or whatever you like to do. Do that more often. If you really like to do something, then find time to do it instead of sitting around and thinking about how hard life is and how you don't want to live through it. Because there's so much other things that you could do that could benefit you.
For me, what I'd recommend is for anyone who really has like that serious baggage, if it's an option, go to therapy, because although you need friends, I feel like if you could have both friends and therapy and a trained professional on your side, you could really deal with what problem that is at hand way better. Just because I feel like when it comes to therapy, people will open up more to a therapist just because they don't want their friends thinking of them in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And just because of the confidentiality in therapy, and because they deal with it in a more constructive manner, that environment, to me, I feel like I'd preach it as much as possible.
I completely agree. As somebody who have used a therapist before, it's a huge help. It kind of gives you that safe haven to kind of speak on it. You know what I mean? And a lot of the times too, like it's not even so much that we're worried about being judged by our friends or our family if we open up to them or anything like that. It's just I don't want to burden you with that. You know what I mean? I don't want to like take my negativity that I'm going through and I'll throw it into your life. So now you're going to feel like shit. You try to avoid that as much as possible. But with when I started seeing my therapist personally, it was almost like you were able to talk to that person from scratch in the most honest way possible. And they never judge you on it. They just let you talk and take all of it in and then see how they can help you. So personally, for anybody who has gone through any type of trauma and it kind of still haunts you now, like I personally think you should go get professional help, speak to some type of therapist, and just get it out as much as possible. A lot of the times too, you just talking to somebody about it, you solve it yourself. You know what I mean? Like they didn't even tell you anything, but you're able to figure it out yourself, because hearing it puts you in that mindset where you think about it. And when you think about it, you start to think, well, how does it affect me now? What can I change about it now? I can't change anything, so why am I holding on to it? You know what I mean? But personally, I completely agree with Jamal on that one.
No, I feel like we both like see it being, helped in two different ways, because not everyone can see a therapist and not everyone can talk to their friends. So, yeah.
So I know when I went to high school, there was like guidance counselors and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's still a thing for you guys, right?
Yeah.
Now, do you see that a lot more now? Because I know when I was in school, people went to the counselors, but they really went for like school related stuff, not so much like mental stress or anything like that.
I mean, there is counselors that you could go to for school and all, and then there's also like certain people. I remember at my school there was this one lady, and she basically you could just talk to her about anything. I never went because I didn't have a need to, but I remember you could just go and just talk about anything with her. So for me, yeah, like some schools do have the resources, and if you are going through something serious, you should check your resources and head to them.
Yeah, what Jamal said.
Now, with your generation, like Jay, you just finished high school. When you were going to high school, what would you say was the most stressful aspect of your life at that point?
For me, I mean, I surrounded myself with a great friend group, so like I didn't have to worry about any of those like negative issues with peer pressure and all that stuff. That's just personally for me. But the biggest was probably just the amount of homework you had, and just thinking, oh my god, I might not actually graduate. But like I did, but like just the fear of okay, I have to do this, I have this project this day, this test this day, I have an exam next week, like that really does wear down on a person.
Yeah, what about you, Trista?
Yeah, it really does. Because I'm going through it right now, right? So it's kind of hard to like balance my life, my mental health, and then school life. So yeah.
So the two of us, we were actually able to go to physical school, like physical high school, like go in to the classroom, sit down, sneak snacks in the back of the class. You don't have that yet. So do you think that adds a different level of stress to your life, or?
That I feel like it, like then again, like depends on the person. With me, I don't necessarily need a bunch of friends around me or a bunch of like company around me since I already have a big family. So I don't necessarily have to be around that environment. I know some people do, like some of my friends, they rather be in that school environment and it's easier for them to focus and like learn with the teacher in front of them teaching stuff. So yeah, it depends on the person.
I know for me, honestly, the schoolwork aspect was the easy part for me. You kind of go in and you read your book and you listen in class and then you just answer your questions and you go about your business. But it was like I was a socially antisocial person. And the only way I can really describe that is like I don't necessarily like being around people as much, but I talk to everybody. Like I had friends in like every friend group, if you want to use that politically correct term, friend group. I hung out with like everyone, right? And I found that added a lot of stress because like one group doesn't like the other group, and now you're friends with them, and it's just it adds that like social pressure. Now, Jay, you said you pretty much had the same friend group from the start to the finish, so I'm gonna assume you really didn't have to deal with that too much.
I mean, along the way, I did meet new people. Some people I lost. Some people, like I was friends with from grade 9 up until the end of high school and still am. But for the most part, I did find like a core 4, 5, 6 people who just have good intentions and, who are good at heart, who I know won't like bring on extra stress to me. And finding that group was literally probably the best thing I could have done, because then that just took that stress away from me so I could just focus on school. And while school was for me stressful, not because I wasn't good at school, but because of the amount of stuff thrown at me, the workload was stressful. So getting through just a bunch of homework and all that stuff just took a huge load off my back. Yeah.
So this friend group is the same friend group that you yell at when you're playing COD.
Sometimes, yeah. Some of them.
Shout out to Jamal's friend group. Trista, what about you?
Sorry, what's the question?
Just in the sense of like, you don't necessarily have the social aspect as much. With you doing school online, does any social stuff like affect you at all? Like, do you have to deal with any social drama at all?
Not necessarily. I mean, like my classes have group chats that we're in, so like for my English class, we have like an English group chat.
Group chats are the worst.
It's actually not that bad. We all help each other with homework and all that jazz. But I don't. No, not really.
Not really.
No.
Do you think it would affect you if you were attending school, and how much? Like, you know your friends better than I do, right? If you were in school, do you think you would have a lot more of that social pressure?
Like I said before, it depends on the person. I'm not really easily peer pressured because I know like who I am and I know where I stand and I know like the boundaries that I set for myself. So no, I don't think it would.
Do you know anybody who does go through, like, you don't have to say names or anything, but
yes I do, but like they also know their boundaries. Maybe that's just who they are as a person.
I don't know how in depth you are with their life, but from what you see with that person or this group of people, whoever it is that you're referring to, how much does that affect them in their regular life? How much stress do you think it adds to their life?
To be honest with you, you could only get stressed out if you let that on yourself. If you're an overthinker and you want to please everyone and be everyone's expectation, you're putting that on yourself. And obviously when you're putting that on yourself, that isn't necessarily who you are because someone else's expectations. So I'm pretty sure it does affect your life. But
you just don't know to what degree.
Yes.
All right. So I started being a very avid reader as of the last couple months. One book that I recently read was The Art of Saying No, and it's really about how much social pressure we put on ourselves when it comes to kind of like denying the request of other people. Do you guys have a hard time saying no to people? Look, we have an answer from Tristan. Let's go this way.
Without a doubt, yes, especially teachers. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm a really nice, genuine
people pleaser.
Wow, thanks, Jay.
It's not a bad term.
But yeah, I don't like saying no. If I know I could do something for you, obviously I'm gonna say yes. If you're a close friend and I care about you, I'm gonna obviously say yes, because I would expect that from you as well. But yeah.
So where does that hold weight? Like, who holds weight in that decision? Like, is it just teachers and family? Is it friends? Is it just people in general?
Like I said, it will depend on how much I know you. Like, if you're a teacher, I feel like I have to say yes. But if you're a friend, I would say yes. If you're a family member, I would say yes. If you're a stranger, it would depend on what it is.
All right. And why do you feel the pressure to tell people no?
Why don't I feel the pressure?
Why do you?
Because I don't like saying no.
Why?
Because I feel like saying yes just leads to so much more, opportunities, more pathways. And like I said, I would expect that from you. So if I expect you to say yes when I ask you something, I would want to do the same to you.
All right. So is you saying yes dependent on your current workload that you have in your life? Like, if you have
definitely
7 projects due and somebody comes and asks you for help with a project, would you tell them no? Or the teacher comes and is like, oh, I could use your assistance with this, like, would you say yes?
I would say yes.
Why would you say yes?
Because I'm expecting that it wouldn't take a lot of time, but if it does, then bye-bye. I have stuff to do.
Oh, so you say yes when it's more conducive to your life, like you have the time, the space, and the acuity for it.
But if I know I don't, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna do something for you and not do it.
Smart child, good. I like that.
Thank you.
Well, when it comes to the word no, you could always say no. That doesn't mean you have to say no from the start. Or just because you say yes, you could always say no. So you could always back out. If something is just crap or just a really bad idea, you could, for instance, say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna help you with your homework. But then if that is bringing down your grades, you could always say no. So you could always back out later on in the future.
We know we have the ability to say no. How many of us actually do say no? So let me give a quick scenario for both of you. Jamal, you're in college. You have 3 assignments due by Monday. Trista, you have about 3, and then I see you that you have due on Monday, and your mother comes to you and says, I need you guys to come help me clean up the yard. Are we saying yes or are we saying no?
I'm saying yeah. Just because it depends. It always depends on the person. For me, my mom, yeah, I'll always be there to help my mom. So yeah, I'll say yes. That does result in a few consequences for me, but I know that in the long term, my mom would always think about me, and maybe say yes to me too. So it has to go both ways.
That's a tricky one. Cause wait, what day is it? Cause you said that's due on Monday.
It's Friday. She needs help on Saturday.
Well, it would depend on how far along I am with my assignments. What I'm doing at that exact time she asked me. If I was on my phone, then I'll say yes, because I'm clearly not, doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah.
All right, so same scenario, except the person requesting your assistance is your best friend, and they need your help to help them move. Think of your best friend.
Okay.
You can say his name if you want.
Nah, but no, that for that one it's gonna have to be. I'm going to have to say no, just because, like, I'd give the exception to me almost always saying yes to my mom, just because she's my mom. But when it comes to somebody else, I'm gonna have to say no. That's just the way I am. I'm sorry.
I already have back problems, so I'm most likely gonna say no. So yeah, no.
We're not gonna base it on your physical limitation here.
We have
This is
to.
a cop out. Cop out.
This is important. If
No, okay. Let's say you did. We're under the assumption you have a good back, like normal people your age.
I'll still most likely say no, because I don't really like lifting stuff, and as I said, I wouldn't. No, it's just not important. Well, I would recommend someone you could go to for that, but I wouldn't.
All
All right.
That's good. No, that's good. A lot of people struggle with that. It's surprising how many people are terrified of saying no because they feel like the people are going to judge them, or the person's not going to be their friend because they told them no. It's crazy. Now, if it's like your boss that comes to you now, does that change the situation or?
Yeah, to a degree, because if you say yes, there could be rewards in place for you, and if you say no, there could be consequences to you saying no to your boss. That's why I wouldn't say you always have to say yes, but there could be rewards on the other side long term if you're thinking about it.
I don't know if you've had a boss yet, but what do you think about it?
Yeah, I agree. 'Cause like what Jamal said, if you say yes, it could, lead you on a different path, and if you say no, it can, again, lead you on a different path. So it would depend, and I also feel like it's more of a thing that's like in the moment, like quick thinking. So
yeah. So, note to all the people in management, y'all need to stop stressing us out. Moving forward, one thing that everybody needs to be aware of is the importance of self-care. Now, it's funny, I wasn't hearing this term 5 years ago. Self-care apparently wasn't a thing then, but it's a big thing now, and a lot of people are taking it a lot more seriously just because of the stresses that you have to deal with on a regular basis. So, just quick examples of what you guys do for self-care. Jamal?
I mean, for me, I do whatever makes me the most happy. So I'd start with
Breakfast.
breakfast, of course, having a nice breakfast. But and then after that, just doing whatever makes me happy. So if I like watching YouTube, so that's what I'll do. I'll touch upon topics that I like on YouTube. I will, play some video games, talk to my friends, that kind of stuff. That's just what makes me happiest. And I feel like if you're just surrounded by negative energy 24/7, that does the opposite of what you need to do to better your mental health.
yeah, no, I totally agree. If you're hanging out with someone that's always negative, or hanging out with a group of friends that are always negative, what have you, it obviously will take a toll on how you see the world and how you think and choices that you make. But to answer your question, things that I like to do for my self-care are, yes, obviously things that make me happy. Like, as I said before, hobbies, talking to my friends, watching movies or shows, or talking to family members, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, 100%, 100%. Completely agree with it. I think that people overlook how big self care is. Right? They think it's just well, this is what I normally do, so this is fine with me. Um, but you do also have to be careful with self care because at the end of the day, it depends on what it is, right? If you're a person who likes to come home and sit down and have a beer every day and watch TV, then you're opening yourself up for like other issues on a physical end, right? But you may help deal with the mental stress. But then when your body gets physically affected by it, now it's going to affect you mentally, anyways. So, in your opinion, people who really get into these really dark places when it comes to mental health, is that because they're lacking self-care, or do you think there are other factors, and if there are, what are they?
I mean, self-care could literally be anything that you do on a daily basis when you think about it. Like, for me, another thing that would, I guess, equal out self-care is doing my hair and my makeup, just making myself feel like I am presentable, whether it's at home or I'm going out.
I'm so pretty.
Yeah, just like little things like that. And maybe that might, make you think a little bit less of yourself because now you feel like you need that makeup in your life, or you need to do your hair. Or
So you're saying that self-care can also become like a crutch in a way.
Yeah, kind of like, I don't want to say addictive.
And then when that doesn't happen, that now adds more mental stress.
Yeah, because then I feel like you're not pretty enough, or you don't look good enough.
What's your take on this?
For me, self-care could always become self-harm and harm yourself in the long term. But it has to look at what you're doing and how you're doing it. So for the example of the guy drinking a beer, if he likes, drinking, it's okay if he's drinking socially, like, with his friends, once every 2 weeks or once every week, I don't know. But if he's just coming home every single day and that's what he's doing because that's what he likes, I just feel like he just has to find out who he is and other things that he likes to do that doesn't harm his physical body as much.
So to put that into context, somebody who goes to the gym, right, and that's their form of self-care, when does that now become detrimental? Because you're taking care of your body, it's physical fitness. Is that not always a good thing?
Not necessarily.
Well, how so?
Because if you're working out every single day for a certain amount of hours, that's just hurting your body.
Yeah, but you can argue athletes do it all the time.
Yeah, but like, you obviously need a break at some point. You can't just be working out every single day for like 7 hours.
All right. So since we're on this topic, this gives you the opportunity to open us up for scrutiny. Like Jamal, I am a huge gamer. I've been playing video games since I was 7 years old. Starting off with Mario on the old school Nintendo. Because for me, it kind of helped keep me out of trouble and kept me inside and gave me something to do. Now, the huge thing that has been portrayed in the media is that video games are causing mental illness to people who overuse using video games as a stress mechanism. Jamal, do you think that is an actual thing, or are you calling BS on this?
Part of me wants to call BS on this, and part of it is true. Just because you have to look at you have to look at it on an individual basis. So someone who just plays video games just because they make them happy and they play them as a hobby, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you want to play video games, do whatever you want, play whatever you want. But if it's someone who plays video games and is more depressed when they're playing video games, if video games cause you to be depressed, then that is a form of self-harm and it's not a form of self-care. But if it's the opposite way around, then complete power to you.
No, I totally agree. Because at that point you're kind of just abusing your resources.
That's true. So let's take the beauty discussion, because you said one of your ways of self-care is, doing your makeup so you feel pretty and whatnot. By you doing that, now when you look at those women on Instagram who are constantly done up and everything like that, is that not adding some type of mental stress to you?
Not necessarily, because me personally, I could tell when someone's wearing makeup or not,
Mm-hmm.
because I do it so often. I know, and I don't do makeup just because I feel more pretty while I'm doing it. I do it because I like it. I do it because it, gives me an opportunity to do some type of form of art, because I do draw and I am an artist. So I kind of like get to do that on my face. So it's pretty cool.
So for you, it's the process more than the result.
Yeah, because I could go out with makeup before, a day. I'm not going to go crazy. So.
All right. And Jay, when would you look at gaming being now less recreational and more of an addiction? Like if your friend was going through an addiction for playing video games, what do you think that would look like?
So for me, anything on planet Earth could be an addiction, including video games. But anything from driving to TV to eating, whatever you name it, it's an addiction. It could be an addiction. So for video games, it becomes an addiction when you start harming yourself to play video games. So for an example, like you're not eating because you want to play video games. You're not showering because you want to play video games.
Not
like
sleeping at like normal hours.
Yeah, well, yes. No. Because I wake up later. I still get my 8 hours of sleep. I just wake up at 12. But someone who would go to sleep at 4 to wake up at 5 to play more video games, that is a harm. That is a form of self harm, and you really have to just reevaluate what you like and tone down on it just a little bit.
I personally think that people should have multiple outlets when it comes to self-care, right? Because no offense, if I play video games every day, after like 2 weeks I'm just kind of like, I don't want to do this anymore. If you're working out every day, after like 2 weeks you'll be like, geez, do I really want to do this again? Outside of the ones you guys have mentioned, what other things do you guys go through for self-care?
Definitely playing sports, because when I'm playing a sport, my mind is kind of just set on the sport I'm playing and not on like what I'm going to do after I'm done playing the sport.
Well, yeah, sometimes I play sports too. But aside from playing sports and playing video games, like one of my biggest passions nowadays is both technology and finances. Like I love that. So like I'll like study up for like 3-4 hours a day just on the newest technologies that are coming out, how to innovate and finances. So what's going to be the next biggest thing in 5-10 years. I love that stuff. So for me, when I'm not playing video games, because I do eventually get bored of video games, that's what I'm doing. It's just just studying up.
All right, so neither of you guys are in relationships, correct?
Yeah.
All right, so if you were in a relationship and your significant other was not into a lot of the same things that you were, would you guys see that as a problem? So like, let's say your boyfriend, Trista, was like, I don't know why you spend so much money on makeup, and kind of gave you a hard time every time you decided you were just going to do it for the sake of doing it. How do you think that would affect you?
I don't think it would affect me. I'd obviously ask my significant other what the heck is wrong with you, because why you hating? You met me like this. But anyways,
Trying to be beautiful.
I know, right, for you. But I don't think it would affect me. I'll just more wonder what's going on with them, and question why they suddenly have a problem with what I do.
For me, I'm a little torn on this, because it could be someone trying to help you, but then it could also just be someone just being very, very judgmental on a topic that they just don't like, on something that they just personally don't like. So when it comes to that, you have to evaluate, is this thing harming you? Because if it's not harming you, then there's no reason to tone down what you're doing or stop. So I feel like you have to evaluate if what you're doing is harming you, and then whether they want to, or not, you could worry about them later. But you just have to look at the thing at hand, and if it's harming you, that's what I'm saying.
No, one of the things I look at is the idea that a lot of people believe that if you're in a relationship, you and that person have to like the same things. And I don't necessarily think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing if you like every single thing the other person does, because at the end of the day, your likes are your likes and theirs should be different, right? It's fine. And I think as it doesn't become a problem if you allow the person to do that. Like if your person is very big on fitness and you are like, yeah, you can go to the gym and enjoy yourself, go in the gym and let it out while you're doing that. I'll do whatever I do, you know what I mean? Like that's healthy. You don't really have to have that, oh, we gotta like the same things aspect, because to be completely honest, you start getting bored. That's just my take on it, just because I've been in relationships where you guys haven't. So I'm giving you guys a little bit of foresight now. It is completely okay if you like video games and she does not. As long as she allows you to have your outlet, you should be fine. It's the same with your. I shudder to say the word boyfriend when you eventually have one. Yeah, you can wait till after college. We can do that way.
Child, anyways. uh, but no, I totally agree with that. Mutual respect is definitely a big thing in a relationship. I know I haven't been in one, but like, it is, you know.
I don't want to touch on this too much because I feel like this could be
A different
a
topic.
whole different other episode on its own. But when we're looking at the social climate with the Black Lives Matter movement and all the dissension between law enforcement and people of color, does that add a whole different level of stress and anxiety to your lives at all?
Jamal, do you want to take this one real quick?
Somebody gotta take it.
All right, I'll take it. So first, yes. Not me personally, no, but I definitely do know that it does cause a lot of stress and anxiety in a lot of other people's lives. Why? First of all, being told, yes, the cops are out to kill you, all the cops are racist, they're gonna kill you. That's what people are fed into the media, and not all cops are dangerous and bad. There definitely are bad cops out there and stuff, but not all of them are bad. Just like the other, it could be flipped around on the other side and said, and you could just see like a riot, a Black Lives Matter riot, and think, oh my god, like all black people are dangerous, they want to riot and they're aggressive. Not all, it's just a few bad individuals who took it on themselves to set a store on fire or something like that. But when you look at it through one lens, that's what will be portrayed. So for the whole media and all that stuff, you really have to break it down onto an individual basis.
No, I totally agree. If I don't really see it as, well, they could be saying that all cops are, like bad and they're gonna, do something bad to you. But then it's also like preparing you for that, because you never know what's gonna happen. You never know which cop is good and which cop is bad. They don't just have label on them that says it, right?
Yeah.
So it's preparing you for that, that scenario and what could happen.
So if you guys are walking down the street and you see a cop car drive by and then it slows down and like stops like in front of you, do you feel any type of stress, or do you just think, oh, okay, they're stopping?
Well, for me, if I see a cop car pass me or slow down towards me, I would have a little stress just because I'm thinking that it's for me. But I'm not like stressed out to the point where I'm like, oh my god, they might kill me. Like, I wouldn't think of myself losing my life, but I would think that they mix me up with someone that did do something bad in that area. But touching up on what Trista said, I do agree to the point where, when people say, all cops are bad, all cops are this, it does prepare you, but it does also instill a lot of fear in a lot of people that, like the second they see a cop pull up to them, they're gonna die. And that does add another another load of anxiety and stress, and just a bunch of other stuff that the media just blew out of proportion.
I personally wouldn't, because I know if I did, unless I did do something that I wasn't supposed to do, I would not be stressed out about it.
I know personally, like, not all cops are bad. I know that there are some that might be and some that aren't, and I know there's always two sides to every story.
You know?
Yeah. Me, I was very much I'm gonna say a street kid, but for cyberpunk terms, we'll say a street kid. So I was exposed to a lot of it, not directly for myself. You know, I didn't really get in trouble, but like a lot of my friends would. Right? I've seen situations where they were honestly just chilling in a group, and 4 cop cars came up and carted all of them and took 2 of them away. You know what I mean? So I've seen it at its worst at times, but I've also seen it at its best, right? I do have friends who are in law enforcement, so I never really had that overall stain that a lot of people do. But that fear, though, of it, seeing that you guys haven't really been exposed to it much, is that something more that you're getting from the media, or is that something more you're getting from the community itself?
Well, when it comes to the fear of it, so I didn't really grow up like in a bad community. Like I haven't really seen too much violence.
You were young when you were
But-
in the ghetto.
But for me, most of the fear just comes from the media, because whenever there's some kind of bad cop, they will be put in the media and at the spotlight for the next month. The media will just push them, and they should be highlighted, because it's like, these are bad cops. They should be highlighted. But the fact that they just keep pushing it, that all cops are like this, all cops are like this, they just keep pushing the same story for the next 2 weeks, it will instill fear in people and misconceptions of the entire branch of law enforcement.
To touch on what Jamal said, I do agree, like, they could be, like, making it seem like all cops are bad, but then that's for you as a person to take that upon yourself and to realize that not everyone is the same, and we're all unique and we're all different. So it can be seen as 2 ways. It really depends on the person.
I truly feel we got to do a whole episode on this, because there's a lot to talk about. Yeah. And I kind of want to figure out where that change happened with you guys, because I'm from that millennial branch, and I know the Gen X branch went through it a lot more than we did, and we were kind of like that group that was like, no, you know what, it's not as horrible, right? Now you guys are just kind of like completely not desensitized to it, but more in the fact of like, yeah, it's not as bad as, it was portrayed.
I don't want to say like it didn't happen back in your days, because I'm pretty sure it did. It just there wasn't really a source for them to expose that. But now there is, because now with my generation, we're more open, or we're more like, aware of what's happening in the world, because we have the sources. We have social media, we have the news, we have podcasts like this, we have,
the cell phone became a pistol.
Yeah, like we're more aware of things, and we're more aware of how we move forward with that information.
All right, well, we'll definitely do a full episode on this, just because I don't want anything to run too long. For anybody who is going through any type of mental health, I know it's a lot more prevalent now, especially due to COVID, and we're pretty much locked up all the time. I do advise everybody to seek some help, right? Try to find somebody to talk to. Try to find somebody who can help you and reach out to some of these resources. So one that I know for sure is actually really good is Connects Ontario Helpline for anybody in Ontario. They can be reached at 1-866-531-2600. They also have something called the Bounce Back Program, and that actually offers free cognitive behavioral therapy from anybody 15 years of age and up. Both of these organizations, they do have online help as well. You can speak to somebody via some type of web chat or email or anything like that, it's actually a really good resource. There are also a couple others. Trista, you're gonna, help me out here a little bit.
Another resource is Good to Talk. It's from 17 to 25 years old. The number is 1-866-925-5454. Another one is the Kids Helpline. It's from 5 to 20 years of age. You can reach it at 1-800-668-6868.
Those two also have online features and programs as well. And for our, indigenous brothers and sisters, Jamal's going to help you guys out quickly.
So for our indigenous brothers and sisters, we have Indigenous Hope for Wellness Helpline. You could reach them at 1-855-242-3310. We'll leave all the numbers and links below in the description, and you could check out them on your own time if you're free to check them out.
All right, and with that wraps up the first episode of the Stone Disclosure. We will probably be dropping an episode every 2 weeks, at least right now. And, just due to demand, if it's popular enough, we'll start doing more. Feel free to leave in the comments anything you guys want us to talk about, any topics you want us to go through. We'll see who we can actually, what we can actually incorporate. We do have a lot of segments coming up. We do have a lot of great ideas that we're going to bring to the table. We're also going to have some guests that we're going to be bringing in the future. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys will tune in again. And, hit the like and subscribe and share buttons and, just spread the word as best as much. Leave the comments in the bottom. And with that, we are out.